Grogu is 50 years old, has trained under Luke Skywalker, and we still have no idea what he's actually capable of. The Empire understood exactly what he was. They hunted him across the galaxy for years, not to destroy him, but to harvest what was inside him. Something encoded in his very biology that no other living being in the galaxy could provide. And what they did with it may have changed the fate of every living thing in the Star Wars universe. Most people are still thinking about the cute green kid. They're missing the point entirely. The question this video answers is simple. How powerful is Grogu really? And why does the answer matter far beyond anything his size suggests? We're going to look at what Grogu has actually demonstrated, how that compares to the most powerful Force user in Jedi history, and what the Empire did with his blood that may connect directly to one of the most consequential events in Star Wars history. That last part, the blood, Project Necromancer, and what it might have produced, we'll get to. But first, what makes Grogu's biology so extraordinary that an Imperial Moff pursued him at any cost? In this video, we're building a case across 4 angles, and one of them rewrites what you thought you knew about Palpatine's return. Only 3 confirmed members of Grogu's species exist in all of Star Wars canon: Yoda, Yaddle, and Grogu. In multiple interviews, George Lucas stated this was deliberate. He wanted Yoda to remain a mystery character, with no background, no homeworld, no species name. And every single one of those 3 members has demonstrated a deep, innate connection to the Force. According to Star Wars canon, midichlorians are the microscopic life forms through which the Force speaks, and blood concentration determines potential. In Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan Kenobi's readings on Anakin Skywalker come back at over 20,000 midichlorians per cell. His exact words? The reading's off the chart. Over 20,000. Even Master Yoda doesn't have a midichlorian count that high. That means before Anakin, Yoda held the highest confirmed count in the entire Jedi Order's history. And Yoda's species produces that as a baseline. The Star Wars role-playing game sourcebook, Alien Anthology, part of the old expanded universe, now classified as Legends, described members of Yoda's species as possessing a secondary neurological structure, a so-called subbrain activated specifically during Force visions. Current canon has never contradicted this, but it hasn't confirmed it either. Grogu, at 50 years old during The Mandalorian, is the biological equivalent of a human toddler. His Force potential has barely been touched. Let's go through the record. Concrete canon moments, in order. In The Mandalorian Chapter 2, The Child, Grogu, with no active training and decades of suppressed Force connection, lifts a charging mudhorn off the ground to save Din Djarin's life. The creature weighs hundreds of kilograms. Grogu passes out immediately after. That's not a controlled display of power. That's raw instinct. In The Mandalorian, Chapter 14, The Tragedy, Grogu meditates atop a seeing stone on Tython and projects a Force beacon that reaches across the galaxy, contacting Luke Skywalker. Ahsoka Tano confirms in Chapter 13 that Grogu trained at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant under many masters and refuses to train him further, saying, "I've seen what such feeling can do to a fully trained Jedi Knight, to the best of us." The implication is unambiguous. She considers his Force potential real enough to fear. In the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 6, From the Desert Comes a Stranger, Grogu, now in Luke Skywalker's care, approaches a rampaging Rancor during the battle for Mos Espa, an animal that breaks seasoned warriors. Grogu walks up to it, extends his hand, and uses the Force to calm it into a deep sleep. And in The Mandalorian, Chapter 24, The Return, when Axe Woves crashes a Mandalorian warship directly into Moff Gideon's Imperial base, the resulting explosion engulfs the entire structure. Grogu creates a Force shield that protects himself, Din Djarin, and Bo-Katan from the blast entirely. None of them are harmed. Each of these happens at a different developmental stage. The trajectory is consistent. Every time Grogu is pushed, he exceeds the previous ceiling. In Chapter 13, Ahsoka tells Din Djarin she cannot read Grogu's mind. His Force presence is closed to her. For years, something kept him hidden from Imperial detection. In The Empire Strikes Back, Yoda uses the same technique on Dagobah. Grogu used it instinctively. So we know what Grogu can do. But what happens when you step back further and ask what the Empire saw in him that was worth years of pursuit, war crimes, and covert biological research? Here is where I'll make a case that goes beyond what the shows have stated outright. Yoda's power was the product of 900 years of existence. Over 800 of them spent inside the Jedi Order, training generations of knights. His mastery was inseparable from that timeline. He is, by every canon measure, the most powerful Jedi the Order ever produced. Grogu's raw species potential is identical, but his development path is unprecedented. According to The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, he received Jedi youngling instruction at the Coruscant Temple before Order 66. Formal one-on-one training from Luke Skywalker at his nascent Jedi Temple, and is now being mentored in combat by Din Djarin. No known Force user in canon has combined those three disciplines. The Jedi Order's own internal philosophy, as laid out across the prequel trilogy and Star Wars: The Clone Wars, explicitly suppressed emotional attachment. Grogu rejected Luke's offer to remain at the Jedi Temple and chose Din instead. In Revenge of the Sith and Return of the Jedi, it is ultimately emotional attachment, not Jedi discipline, that resolves the Skywalker saga. The Force itself seems to respond to that. Grogu may be the first being trained to operate on both frequencies simultaneously. My read, there is a credible argument that Grogu's ceiling surpasses Yoda's. Not because he is more naturally gifted, the species baseline may be equivalent, but because his path has no institutional ceiling. The Jedi Order shaped Yoda into what it needed. He's 50 years old, and already doing things it took other Jedi decades to access. And if this kind of deep dive is what you're here for, hit like and subscribe. From Season 1 onward, the Imperial Remnant deployed Dr. Pershing, a cloning specialist operating under Kaminoan protocols, with one standing instruction confirmed in Chapter 3, the Sin: keep Grogu alive. The reason becomes clear later. According to The Mandalorian, Chapter 16, The Rescue, Moff Gideon states directly that Grogu's blood, his plasma, could bring order to the galaxy, and Pershing confirms he could only extract limited quantities without killing the subject, because previous attempts using blood from dead Force users had proven biologically inert. What Gideon built with that material is revealed in The Mandalorian, Chapter 24, The Return. Not Snoke clones, not a vessel for Palpatine. Force-sensitive clones of Gideon himself. Soldiers with his tactical mind and the Force as a weapon. No other living subject in the galaxy could supply that midi-chlorian density without fatal degradation. The entire program depended on a creature that fits in a satchel. The Empire, masters of long-term strategic planning. But the deeper connection is Project Necromancer. In The Mandalorian, Chapter 23, The Spies, the Imperial Shadow Council explicitly names the project, and Captain Pelion states that Thrawn's return will buy time for its completion. In Star Wars: The Bad Batch, Season 3, Emperor Palpatine personally tells Dr. Hemlock that Project Necromancer is the most important effort to the long-term security of the Empire. The goal? Transfer Force sensitivity into clone bodies without degradation. Scientists at Mount Tantus can clone subjects and transfer consciousness, but cannot replicate innate Force ability. Grogu's blood was the closest the Empire ever got to solving that. Everything we've covered explains what Grogu means to the present story, but there is one dimension that reframes what all of it could mean for the future, and it connects to the largest unresolved question in Star Wars canon. If the Empire was trying to solve Force-sensitive cloning, what did that ultimately produce? According to sources from The Rise of Skywalker and The Bad Batch, Sith Eternal scientists preserved Palpatine's consciousness in a decaying clone body on Exegol after his death in Return of the Jedi. That body was unstable. His followers then built what the Rise of Skywalker Visual Dictionary calls strand casts, engineered hybrids designed to hold his essence without degrading. One became Snoke. Another became Rey's father, a clone of Palpatine confirmed in the Rise of Skywalker novelization to have lacked Force sensitivity entirely. Every failure points to the same unsolved problem the Empire was running during the Mandalorian era. How do you engineer Force potential into cloned tissue? What canon has not confirmed is whether Grogu's blood entered that pipeline directly. What it has confirmed is that the Imperial cloning program was a single continuous effort, that its central unsolved problem was precisely what Grogu's biology offered a solution to, and that it ultimately produced a Force-capable result on Exegol. Whether his blood was a direct ingredient or an accelerant, Palpatine's return runs through what they took from him. A being whose blood the Empire needed to resurrect its Emperor is now being raised as a Mandalorian apprentice, carrying Jedi training, combat instincts, and Force potential that hasn't come close to its ceiling. The galaxy has no idea what it created, the day it let Grogu survive.